All right, back online. So let me go over just quickly the expiration dates that I'm interested in. So we have this Friday. There's in 2 weeks. That's a fairly significant midpoint, and then the bigger one, which is the end of the month, which is the end of quarter 3. And there's quite a bit of options being traded on that expiry, so it's going to be a lot of volume around the end of the month, especially with the FOMC happening. And for Ethereum, also a lot of call options here. So I think this is the hedge protection for the staking event. So for call options, one way you look at it is they're giving the obligation, the rights to buy Ethereum without having to purchase Ethereum. So if the unlock happens and a bunch of Ethereum gets dumped into the market, rather than buy Ethereum, they could just buy a bunch of call options. And if Ethereum dumps, these call options will expire worthless, but they don't have to expose themselves to an Ethereum dump. So that's likely the cause of why there's a high open interest for Ethereum, is probably because of the Shanghai unlock and a potential dump. So not a lot of volume interest in buying Ethereum. More about buying protection for Ethereum when that happens. I'm gonna check on the volatility. This is not the one I want. I'm gonna have. It's looking for realized versus implied volatility. I don't think they have it on here. So we'll just go back to the options by week. So let's see. So this is going to be the second week of February for March, and so what do we got here? It's really interesting. So a lot of call options between 25, 20, and 26,000. So it's also likely that people who are selling options at 25,000, they're also buying options at 26,000 to hedge themselves. So it's called a spread. But the major thing is that we have 26,000 as a really interesting point. And then this is probably also a pretty good, probably option dealers are probably buying options here just in case we ever break this, because then it's likely that we will swing pretty high up and maybe test 30,000. So that's kind of where it's betting. And then for puts, you have a lot of puts around 23,000 to basically 22,000. So that's the general range that we're kind of expecting. Still, I would say 24,000 is the average that we can expect Bitcoin as a dealer looking at. And then what do we got for Ethereum? Ethereum is also looking actually a lot more like they want to have. Yeah, so possibly for the Shanghai upgrade. So you have a large amount of calls here at 1,800. So if we do ever start trading above 1,800, you can expect the dealers to get squeezed, and then we can move pretty fast up these areas and test upwards. But in general, we're probably not expecting to go above 1,800 in terms of the option dealers. And on the downside, you have about 1,500 and 1,650. So, and where are we right now? We are at 1646. So puts are sort of in profit. They're doing pretty well at this moment. If you're a put buyer, if you're bearish, let's do. So yeah, but there's also some call options here. So that's a pretty interesting area. And things, of course, will change between now and 2 weeks, right? Like, even though these are, in profit, like, they don't expire until 2 weeks from now. So we could actually just, start to grind up here and probably start trading around these two areas. Is sort of what I'm interested in. And then for the final expiration, BTC. We have a lot of puts here at 23,000. So that's sort of our support level. And then there's a lot of open interest, but I think the actual volume is around 28,000 and 25,000. So though that's kind of so like when someone says like, oh, we're going to move like 100,000 K, or we're going to 12,000 K, I actually like to just look at the options and see what people think is the next step, right? So unless we break 23,000 K, we don't really need to think about 12,000 for now, and if we don't, unless we break 28,000, then there's no real reason to think about the moon. And while there's strike prices for Bitcoin being offered, but 40,000, that's a very big ballpark. So so I think that's the most interesting thing, 28,000 as a really high interest node for the possible swing short if you're looking at Q3 being the highs of the year. And for Ethereum, there's a lot of interest over here, but in general it's 1,800, so it's not super different. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in Ethereum, and that I'm guessing a lot of major traders will be doing is that they'll be long Bitcoin and short Ethereum. So if Bitcoin goes up, they make some money, but they're also hedged by shorting Ethereum. So Ethereum will outperform on the way down and underperform on the way up, because it doesn't look like there's a tremendous amount of people wanting to buy before the Shanghai unlock. I think people are waiting for the Shanghai unlock to happen and then the market to dump. So I think that's really all I have to say on the options. Let me see how much time I've got. 7 minutes. All right, so one final thing is, let me go to the chart, and let's go to Bitcoin. Let's go to number 1. So that's where I put, oops. Anyways, I think I did put where I thought the levels were at based on the thing, but that's sort of like the spread that I'm really sort of interested in. Price trading between these areas, right? So we're just in the middle. And one thing I like to use the fibs as is, and I'll do another lecture on this, is sort of like standard deviation, right? So if you're above the 0.5, then these are like standard deviation 1, standard deviation 2, standard deviation 3, and if you're below standard deviation 1, 2, and 3, and usually the good kind of like a really good kind of reliable trade is to short from the standard deviation 2 to standard deviation 1, and to long from the standard deviation 2 to standard deviation 1, and then you have maybe your stops here and here, or you have your stops kind of like parked out around here. So if there is ever like a deviation, you get cut out of your trade, and both of you start closing back in, you can reopen. Same with the bottom, is like you might ever get stopped out, but if we ever kind of close back in, then you kind of reopen, because it's very likely that we'll just start trading to the other side of the range. And that is for Bitcoin. For Ethereum, these are sort of my levels around. I think the data was a little bit different, but overall, that's kind of for the month. Yeah, I'm not really expecting Ethereum to go above 18,000. And that just means I don't expect it based on, what the options market says. Like maybe we could tag this, possible, but in general, the market's sort of betting against it, betting that we stay under this. We basically stay in this range. And I think that's all I have to say for options. I don't want to make these too long because people can be very busy. All right, so have a great day.